7 seconds is the second intermediate pressure, 50%, and then minus 3 seconds the order is given for the final phase. Full throttle.
Top, H0 moins 20 secondes.
So watch for that.
Largage du mât,
We'll let you watch
allumage
the
triétage.
final countdown. We'll be back. Enjoy the liftoff, everybody.
Attention pour le décompte final. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Top, décollage. Les paramètres de lanceur sont nominaux.
So, Soyuz, you saw lifting off perfectly from French Guyana, beginning her 9th mission from the spaceport. It's always impressive, no matter how many times you see Soyuz powering into the sky today, the blue sky over French Guyana. What went through your mind as you watched liftoff? Because you've seen her lift off before.
No, I think you're right. I saw it already from Baikonur. But this time is also very special. And different it's with daylight.
Because in Baikonur you saw the
During the
night
90s.
flight. And in the snow, I imagine.
No, it was during another season.
Le vol est normal.
336 tons at liftoff. That's half the mass, roughly, of Ariane 5.
Yeah, the boosters and the central core, or the second stage, are burning now.
See them as Soyuz heads north up the Atlantic coast and then eventually east. Boosters weighing 45 tons at liftoff.
Yeah, total mass of the first stage is 178 tons. The engines run on liquid oxygen and kerosene, the same propellants which are used in each of the three lower stages.
Remember, Soyuz weighed 336 tons at liftoff.
Les paramètres
Boosters will be
de lanceur
separated
sont
in
normaux.
just about 5 seconds. We're waiting for the DDO to confirm that report. We'll be able to see it. There is the flame out, and there's the separation. Beautiful. You see the 4 boosters falling away from the mothership.
Séparation des
Continues to
boosters.
burn. Now, from 336 tons at liftoff, with the boosters gone, how much does she weigh?
I think we are having 135 tons. So in less than 2 minutes, she loses more than half her weight.
On the bottom of the screen, you can see on the left our altitude, distance, and speed. The altitude on the left, approaching 70 kilometers. We're going to separate the satellites roughly around 23,000 kilometers, so be watching for that. Now, the figures on altitude and speed are coming in from the downrange stations, and they're received by the Russian teams in the launch center, where just a moment ago, and then they're confirmed before being broadcast. The downrange stations for our system are here in Kourou. There's one called Galileo. It's behind us. The Soyuz signal will next be picked up by a naval station, which is actually a ship out in the Atlantic, right? And then by Santa Maria in the Azores.
Yeah, you're right. It flies. Soyuz flies first to the north and then to the east over Europe.
And over Europe, she's picked up in the south by the station near Toulouse, which is called Osagel.
That's right.
Then she continues east and south and is finally picked up by Perth, which will see separation of the 2 Galileo satellites over Australia. Now, Galileo has her own stations. These are the Ariane space.
Exactly. This is linked to the launcher, so we have in other stations, either for the LEOP, when we take the satellites after separation. And also then, of course, in the Galileo system, we have other stations. But this we will address later in the video transmission.
When we have some time. Right. We're coming up on
Armée de la quoi?
jettisoning of the fairing. Now, the DDU's just called that out. You see what happens there. This is a camera not on board tonight. It was on board previous flight, but it's the same system. The 2 halves of the fairing are actually blown away. It's a controlled explosion. And once they're gone, they reveal the 2 satellites. You can see them there. Side by side. We no longer need the protection of the fairing because why? We're out of the atmosphere.
No, now we are out of the dense layers of the atmosphere, so over 100 kilometers. And here there's neither friction nor heating. So we discard any dead weight as soon as possible to maximize the launcher's functional operation.
We're not lot of dead weight in the space business. As soon as something is done with,
You will have it.
We're coming up next in about 10 seconds on ignition of the third stage and separation of the second stage. And once again, we have the DDO, the Range Operations Manager, calling out confirmation of that information, which again comes into him from the posts, the outposts all across the space base here, which are monitoring the launcher and the satellites and everything else.
Séparation du bloc A.
Separation of Block A, it's called. It's another terminology for the second stage. Ignition of the third stage. One particularity of the Soyuz, that's the skirt being jettisoned. I'll get to that in a minute. With Ariane, we separate the lower stage before igniting the upper stage. Soyuz does the opposite. The third stage is ignited 2 seconds before separation of the lower stage. Here's a replay of the launch about 5 minutes ago. You can relive those exciting moments. Soyuz rising into the sky a little more quickly than Ariane does, because she's a little higher.
Correct.
Third stage skirt, as we mentioned, is separated 10 seconds after the ignition of the third stage. What you see there on the left was the engine, and the third stage burning, and on top of that was the frigate. It's another replay from another angle. We have a lot of cameras across the space base. We'll have even more for you towards the end of the broadcast. We'll be back with more of the mission in a moment, but first the latest news from Arianespace. July 29th, the launch of Arianespace Flight 219 made it 60 straight successes for Ariane 5. On board the 5th ATV, or Automated Transfer Vehicle, called Georges Lemaitre, the cargo ship which brought supplies to the International Space Station. And on August 12th, the ATV docked with the station, bringing food, water, fuel, equipment, onboard experiments, and gifts for the astronauts. The ATV also helps boost and keep the station on its orbit at 450 kilometers above the Earth. Gaia began her mission last December 19th on board Soyuz Flight 6. After onboard validation, the satellite, 1.5 million kilometers away from Earth, is now ready to begin her mission, mapping the Milky Way's billions of stars. On August 6th, after a 10-year voyage of 6.5 billion kilometers, Europe's Rosetta probe went into orbit around the comet 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko. The 3-ton satellite was launched by an Ariane 5 in March of 2004. Back on Earth, August 12th saw transfer of the vehicle for Ariane Flight 218 from the Integration Building to the Assembly Building. Its 2 satellites are Mayasat-B for Malaysia and Optus 10 for Australia. And the campaign for Ariane Flight 220 has begun with integration of the 3 lower stages. Flight 220, set for October, will orbit another 2 satellites, ISDLA-1 for Intelsat and ARSAT-1 for Argentina. On July 17th, ESA and Arianespace signed the contract for launch of the second radar satellite, Sentinel-1B. The satellite is part of the Copernicus program jointly run by ESA and the European Union. Eutelsat brought its fleet of satellites to 37 with signature of the contract with Airbus Defence and Space and with Arianespace on July 31st. Eutelsat 172B, the first all-electric satellite, will be launched by an Ariane 5 in 2017. On August 20th at the CSG, Arianespace and ESA signed for 3 launch services with the Ariane 5 ES. With the new contract, 12 Galileo FOC, or fully operational capacity satellites, will be orbited starting next year, each launcher carrying 4.
So we are coming up on extension of the third stage.
You may have noticed that since the start of the mission, events are announced by the DDO, not always, but sometimes with a slight delay of a few seconds. This is quite normal. The information, the telemetry and the radar coming in to the ground stations, then sent by them here to Jupiter, they have to be first confirmed by the Russian teams in Moscow. This delays a little bit of a lag, just a couple of seconds. They then come to French Vienna at the CVI, which is the Immediate Visual Control Center, where we're going to go in a couple of minutes. And the CVI relays them to the DDO here in Jupiter, and the DDO confirms them. Coming up on separation of the third stage, which is still burning another 2 seconds. There it is, third stage on the left there. first three stages have done their work. Now only the frigate upper stage is functioning. Now tell us about the frigate.
So frigate is an autonomous, flexible upper stage. So it's a relatively recent addition which was qualified in 2000. It's an autonomous and flexible stage designed to operate as an orbiter. It extends the capability of the Soyuz vehicle, giving it access to a full range of orbits.
Séparation.
And it's independent from the lower three stages. Since frigate has its own navigation, guidance, attitude control, tracking, telemetry systems.
Completely independent then, as an
Yes.
independent orbiter, as you said. If the first, second, and third stages are Russian, the Soyuz, the frigate upper stage is European. The payload, the whole payload is actually the entire upper stage on the satellites together, right?
Yes, together. This is correct, yes. So frigate's engine uses storable propellants, which can be restarted up to roughly 20 times, which means it can be used for complex and precise missions, like ours today.
Like today's, right. The DDO has confirmed, you heard him, the ignition of the first frigate burn.
Yeah. The frigate upper stage is produced by NPO Lavochkin, and it has a mass at liftoff of about 6.3 tons.
This first burn will last 13 minutes and 8 seconds, and the second burn later on will take place in about 3.5 hours and last about half the time, only about 5 minutes. We're watching Ariane Space's launch of the 9th Soyuz from
Premier allumage du
All is well
moteur.
on board. We mentioned that deployment of the 30 Galileo satellites will take place over several different phases. We're opening now what they call the FOC phase, fully operational capability. And in our next film, you can see how this has been accomplished. There's a certain Sylvain Lodo being interviewed. See if you recognize him.
Hope so.